Welcome, Patriots, to Patriot News Broadcasting. I'm Jack, and that's John. I love that picture. Makes me think a lot about the past 10 years and all that I've learned in 10 years, and hopefully all that you've learned in 10 years. And, you know, at the very beginning, that hint of a rumor that John F. Kennedy Jr. might be alive, and then all the evidence that came with it afterwards, like that picture, and then the thing that Negative 48 said about John Kennedy not dying like we thought he did, which leads me to believe Robert Kennedy didn't die like they said he did. And then there's, of course, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's working straight up in Trump's administration. We're really in a Kennedy world right now, ladies and gentlemen. People don't even know it, but when you think about it, some of the weight starts to lift off, because the times coming ahead of us, I think, are going to look really bad. But if you're on this side of things, an Anon Patriot, then you know it's part of the show, and you know to stay calm and relaxed, that it's all just a scene. But the regular people, they won't have a clue. They won't have any idea what's happening. And it's funny to say that the weight's starting to lift off, thinking like that, when it feels like what's coming should put more weight on you. But if, like I said, if you know, you know, and if you know, you can have a little bit of peace with what comes next and what comes after, more importantly. And Disco, you were asking about NESARA and what Juan had said before. From my understanding, you know, the original NESARA was created by globalists for a negative cause, but it had a lot of general ideas in there that would work better for humanity in a way. And I think part of what we call the plan now probably includes some of those better parts of what you might think of as NESARA, but technically it's not NESARA or GESARA, and I think that's why Juan gets irritated when people say that, just because of how he probably sees it from, and it's old, fairly old. It's like 25 years old, I think, at least. So obviously times have changed since then. I was kind of thinking, when I was sitting outside earlier, of what the world might look like with flying cars and free energy and maybe no power lines running around. And it's really nice. It's a really nice feeling. So the best thing I can tell you in regards to all that is you don't have to worry. All this has been planned out. The news we look at, while I present it like the news, like a normal person would see the news, you have to know to read between the lines and see behind the picture what's written on the back of the picture, because it's not always what's on the front of the picture. And you guys are good at that. I want to start today out right quick before the news with an old John Kennedy Jr. clip that I think you guys will like. And hopefully it lets me play it without giving me a bunch of copyright guff. And you're right, Noreen, we are in a global reset, but the way you have to, you know, the globe is going to be reset one way or the other. I think that's one thing to understand, is that was going to happen, whether it was good guys doing it or bad guys doing it. And we were probably about to a point of no return with how far the bad guys were getting until Trump. And I know I can be hard on him, but don't get me wrong. I have a lot of respect and a lot of faith in these guys, despite how you shouldn't have faith in these guys. But you know what? I do pray, like they said in that intro video, about taking time out with God. Now, even Jesus took time out to go sit and talk to God, and you really have to do that in your life to just see things in a light that it's just impossible to see otherwise, in my opinion. And so you really just have to, I guess, try it if you're somebody that's never tried it. And so, and if you let him lead, you start to understand things a little better. Let's check out this video, and hopefully it doesn't copyright me.
That's a funny picture.
The moment where the world watched, where we all remember everything we were doing at that point in our lives, that horrible November. Do you remember the salute, and why did you salute?
I don't really, I don't really remember.
Don't remember it at all? Does anybody intimidate you?
Yeah, you do.
Me? No, really, is anybody, really?
Yeah. Sure. But I mean, sometimes that feeling of anxiety or whatever can help, keeps you on your toes a little bit.
So I was talking to John earlier. We were talking about the pressure, which you say you didn't feel coming up to be a success. I thought had been me, I would have been like, oh, what am I going to do? But you never thought of running for office? That had to come up in some discussion somewhere.
No, I mean, I've certainly thought about it, but I think that, for me, I really grew up in a political environment, going to fundraisers, seeing that stuff, and it was important to really do something different. And I think that John Adams said that really you should become a politician or at the end of your life when you bring a wealth of life experience to bear on that office. And for me, I think I was eager to try something different, to see another part of life. I had an idea, to be an entrepreneur.
Where did the publishing idea actually come from, the editor?
Well, Michael and I we were sitting around. I was a lawyer in the DA's office, and he had a marketing company, and we were sitting around, and we'd noticed that all of, television and radio were covering politics in a different way, in a more sort of user-friendly way, but magazines hadn't. Political magazines looked the same as they had for 40 years. So we said, well, why don't we, take that perspective and try to put it into a magazine? And then we tested it, and we got a huge...
It's not super long, but they're starting to flash. Sorry about that. When I, and that was almost over. They were flashing copyright, but when I think of the plan, I sort of think of him running it, almost, you could say. At least a very gigantic part of it. And that's fairly comforting, I think, and I would hope it would comfort you guys. And maybe you haven't seen all the stuff I've seen that feels like evidence that he's still alive, but I at this point in my life have no doubt of that whatsoever. Like not even a tiny bit. So, and you're right, William. Juan does speak in code. I know a lot of people get upset at Juan and say he's speaking in circles and stuff, but you do have to read between the lines, A. B, it serves a purpose. I think it's even part of his job. And C, you got to think of the new people joining in that haven't heard any of this stuff before, and they've got to grasp onto it somewhere. I know I'm rambling. I haven't started the news yet. I just wanted to start out with some positivity, and then I wanted to show you this old Trump clip, too, because I thought it was really good. Then I promise we'll start the news.
Very nice group. He's beginning his so-called presidential exploratory trip. Traveling as a president on Air Force One could be a downgrade. He has masterpieces in the back and a master bedroom up front. We tagged along to see if he was serious or just showing off? Day one had 3 events. First, a press conference with very little press.
Well, I'm here for a number of reasons. Tomorrow, as you know, there's a big speech at the arena, and I guess we have about 20,000 people for that. And then tonight we're doing Jay Leno.
Trump seemed not to mind sharing the spotlight with his girlfriend at the time, a European model named Melania Knauss. Next on the campaign trail, the pre-taping of that Leno show.
And our guest tonight, the next president of the United States, Donald Trump, once
She must
caught
have
a
been
sexually
like 30
transmitted
there.
disease from himself.
He'll tease me. There's no question about it. He historically has. He always will.
They say a job like president requires a big ego. Now, do you think you can handle it?
I'm not sure my ego is big enough. That's one of the things which I can...
Really? Can I write that down?
You can write it.
Last on Trump's day calendar, a meeting with the group he must win over to even make a run.
The plan had to have somebody stand in as president, right? Would you say Trump has the actual power, or is the stand-in for the power? Just wondering. What's the matter, David? You can still see me, right? All right, let's get started with some news stories. Since we're starting out with Kennedy's, Pepsi's reportedly considering removing artificial colorings and switching to natural ingredients. And it seems like they're going to do that with all their products by the end of the year, in alignment with Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s Health and Human Services crackdown. So that's kind of cool. Finally, a soda that we can drink that might actually be, well, I'm not going to say healthy, but not not poison. A local contractor indicted by the FBI on 23 felony charges connected to allegedly defrauding federal programs. And I'll read a little bit on that. Joel Matthew Caswell faces charges including wire fraud, tax evasion, and aggravated identity theft. Local businesses and residents have long history of court cases. This is interesting. PPP funds related to the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act back in April of 2020. So looks to be another case of abusing those funds, I'm assuming. 23 felony charges. I don't know how you pull 23 felony charges out of that, but it seems like he did. Oh, I think those arrests are just going to keep coming and coming and coming. It's going to be nice. Moving forward, try to do a couple more clickety clicks here. President Trump is set to sign an executive order mandating that all truck drivers must speak English. I find that pretty interesting, but I suppose it sort of makes sense. It's probably for safety reasons, being able to read signs on the road and, you know, not driving under bridges that are too short type of thing. I couldn't imagine how hard it'd be to get a driver's license without being able to speak English. And if you're a big Temu fan, you're in trouble. Chinese-founded e-commerce company Temu adds import charges ranging from 130% to 150% to counter U.S. tariffs. I guess they're not going to be so cheapy anymore. You know, it's like I heard somebody that had been to Walmart the other day that, like, your Chinese cheap brands were getting higher and the name brands were getting lower. I don't know. Virginia Giuffre's lawyer says there are troubling inconsistencies surrounding her client's death, noting they were in contact just days earlier with no signs of self-harm, and that police initially even refused to confirm that she had died. That I find odd right there, that little statement. And the police initially refused to confirm she had died. It's so weird. And so, I guess she was living in Australia. That's weird. So they're casting doubt on it. So there is that, obviously. And you've seen in the intro Juliette Bryant's video saying that she's in no way suicidal herself. I think she's probably starting to get a little worried. And a ferry crashed near Clearwater Causeway north of Tampa, Florida last night, injuring several people. And it seemed to have like a police parade there that never ended. And of course, the big story of the day is the massive power outage that hit Spain, Portugal, parts of France, and other countries in the EU. Millions were without power for most of the day. Some, I think it's back on. For most of the day, also, the cause was unclear, but I think in the end they did rule out cyber attacks, but what they were leaning towards was a little bit different. They did have to ground flights. There were people stranded on their trains. Traffic signals failed, causing gridlock in mobile networks. Your internet and phones went down as well. Shops closed amid cash shortages, and electronic locks trapped some residents. You think that's headed this way? Somehow, I don't know. I have a feeling. Anyway, so the supposed cause that they're leaning towards is where it gets even more odd. So odd that some people, even on this side of things, just didn't even believe it. Rare atmospheric phenomenon behind outage and disruption could last a week, the Portuguese operators claimed. A rare atmospheric phenomenon. And so MJ Truth was leaning towards this, I think, induced atmospheric vibration, like a weapon. Technologies like HAARP, EMP devices, microwave systems emitting high-frequency waves or pulses, inducing oscillations in power lines, overloading transformers, and causing a cascade of grid failures, though that's not what we saw, really, in my opinion. This looked different. Slightly different. And I have a theory, too. You know, a lot of people just thinks it sounds crazy, but then I think back to the lightning in the video we saw yesterday, and I think there was a glimpse of it in my intro today, that weird lightning that was just like dancing in the sky. I've never seen anything like that quite before in my life. So if that's not an atmospheric phenomenon, I don't know what it is. But that, of course, was yesterday or the day before. So is it in any way related? You tell me. Very well could be. But we will take a look at some videos on this real quick.
And breaking developments coming in right this minute from Europe. Spain, Portugal and parts of France hit by a massive power outage, a major power outage hitting Spain and Portugal, leaving millions without electricity. As per the latest coming in, reports indicate issues with the European electric grid is what is known as of now. In fact, the Spanish power grid operator, Red Electrica, has said that it is working with the energy companies to restore power. The Barajas International Airport there was left without.
Okay, I'll move forward on that one. I got a couple other things.
Spain and Portugal were hit by a widespread power outage on Monday that paralysed public transport, caused large traffic jams and delayed trains and flights. Utility operators sought to restore the grid with the cause yet to be confirmed. However, Portugal's grid operators said a rare atmospheric phenomenon in Spain, due to extreme temperature variations in the country's interior, caused the power outages. In parts of Portugal and Spain, traffic lights stopped working, causing gridlock. Transport networks were halted and people were trapped in the metro and in elevators. In Madrid, hundreds stood on the streets out.
Extreme temperature variations. I just don't buy that either, though. There's a lot of places on Earth that go through that all the time. Quick changes in temperature in a short amount of time, especially this time of year. But for it to happen so suddenly and now, just seems a little too convenient to me, in my opinion. Somebody posted some weird videos in connection to it. I don't know if this is something that's actually going on in Spain. These are supposed to be from Spain. Obviously those don't look like unknown atmospheric phenomena, but this looks like some kind of little twisters, which is odd. You don't see that much. But then I found this other video that made me think, what if I'm seeing something slightly connected? So check this out.
What kind of technologies are you talking about?
They asked me not to talk about it until they had their patents in place and their licensing. But there are people who've been working on these things for decades now, basically in secret. There's a laboratory right now in the Maldives that's been building prototypes using these technological principles, which are based on implosion rather than explosion. Tesla's ideas are very much a part of it. This is the work of Nikola Tesla. His work was suppressed. A lot of his patents were sealed up by the U.S. government. Here's an example of what they're doing. This is a generator that has no moving parts. It's all based on geometry, pure geometry. And here's the basic idea. Resonance frequencies. Everything vibrates. If you know that frequency, you can control things.
Maybe they're working on changing the vibration of the Earth or something. I have a feeling it's going to be totally different. I don't know. It's going to feel so different. But I wonder if that's somewhat involved in it. And the Maldives, it's not that far from Mayotte Island where that event happened years ago. Rang the earth like a bell or something. Anyway, good feelings on that. I don't know. I feel like they're going to do something with energy soon. We'll see. Anyway, moving forward, a man in Utah is under arrest today after cops stumbled upon 71 homemade bombs in his apartment. God forbid you be his neighbor.
We literally shared a wall with that guy, and he was just over there just making bombs.
Neighbors in Utah County say they're stunned after dozens of homemade explosive devices were pulled from an apartment. Those residents speaking tonight to KSL after being forced to evacuate so the bomb squad could clear the building. Thanks for being with us today. I'm Daniel Woodruff, in for Dan Rascone.
And I'm Ashley Moser. Now, police telling us those bombs were found in Orem. They were wrapped in shrapnel and capable of mass casualties. Well, tonight we are learning new details about the man behind those explosives, who now faces upwards of 70 charges for weapons of mass destruction.
News specialist Andrew Adams has been delving into court records today for any possible clues. Andrew, what have you learned?
Well, unfortunately, court records do not provide a ton of answers. There was a conviction in 2023, discharge of a firearm. That was a Class B misdemeanor, but otherwise, his record looks fairly clean. Neighbors here just beside themselves.
That is the craziest thing we've seen here. Just never thought something like that would happen to me.
In a place where neighbors tend to keep to themselves.
We saw kind of a police car park right here, and then another one right behind it.
It was hard to ignore what was going on.
Now they just got to pray that
we're like, oh.
They get him a nice conservative judge and not one of those Obama judges that will give him 2 years of probation or some shit. Because that does seem to happen. Moving on, a U.S. warplane went overboard into the Red Sea as a result of an accident earlier today on the USS Harry S. Truman aircraft carrier, the country's Navy said. That would be our country. We'll take a look.
Breaking news from overseas right now. There was an incident today on USS Harry S. Truman. The military says an FA-18 Super Hornet went overboard the carrier.
And this happened this morning at the Red Sea. All personnel are accounted for. One sailor suffered a minor injury. An investigation is underway.
And you may remember a similar incident back in 2022 when bad weather blew a jet overboard into the Mediterranean Sea.
At the very least, thank God nobody was hurt. So there's that story, and we'll move forward from there. White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt declared that the administration is prepared to arrest even Supreme Court justices if they are found harboring illegal aliens. And I think she said that today after being asked about it. Trump will soon sign an executive order cracking down on sanctuary cities. And I think he's doing that this afternoon, including state and local jurisdictions that obstruct the enforcement of federal immigration laws. He's about to start clearing out sanctuary cities, and he will arrest officials if they want to obstruct. And it seems like some of them are just digging themselves a hole on that one. And we'll take a look at her statement.
Go ahead.
Thank you. A few things. You guys arrested a Milwaukee County circuit judge for allegedly helping illegal immigrants get away. As you guys look at other judges, would you ever arrest somebody higher up on the judicial food chain, like a federal judge or even a Supreme Court justice?
Well, that's a hypothetical question. Again, I defer you to the Department of Justice for individuals that they are looking at or individual cases. But let's be clear about what this judge did. She obstructed federal law enforcement who were looking for an illegal alien in her courthouse. She showed that illegal alien the door to evade law enforcement officials. That is a clear-cut case of obstruction. You don't have to be a lawyer to understand that. And so anyone who is breaking the law or obstructing federal law enforcement officials from doing their jobs is putting themselves at risk of being prosecuted. Absolutely.
You guys have at least 18 written.
Absolutely. And we'll take a look at a couple other things she had to say today that were pretty interesting.
Same thing with men in women's sports. The president signed a very strong executive order, making it the policy of the United States federal government that there are only two sexes, male and female, and we are not going to tolerate biological men competing in sports or impeding in private spaces for women like myself or you. And we've seen states defy this federal order. You've seen the state of Maine, unfortunately, because of their liberal governor, who nobody in that state disagrees with, I will add, being from New England, I can attest to that. People are incredibly fed up with her trying to oppose this common sense message. You've seen young women who have had to go on television to plead with their governor, please stop letting men play against me in sports. We shouldn't live in a country where that even happens.
So ridiculous. We even have to have that conversation. So, I mean, never in my life would have thought. You told me 15, 20 years ago we'd have men playing in women's sports. If you thought that background there was interesting.
Who actually used this beautiful South Court auditorium, which we're happy to be in today, but he used this like it was a fake Oval Office, weirdly, oddly. He was missing in action. He called lids at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. For those who don't know, a lid is when we tell the press to go home for the night. And he was doing that midday. That is not acceptable around here. I will tell you, we're working very early through the very late hours of the night. And the president's willing to talk to anyone.
And of course, she was talking about Joe Biden there, if you didn't catch that. Fake Oval Office. Got to be careful saying that one, but interesting. He definitely wasn't loved by the press. And Democrat Sri Thanedar just introduced articles of impeachment against President Trump. Go figure, there's always somebody doing that, but let's go ahead and take a look at his reasoning.
This is Congressman Sri Thanedar. Donald Trump has already done real damage to our democracy, but defying a unanimous 9-0 Supreme Court ruling, that has to be the final straw. It's time we impeach Donald J. Trump. The court said the wrongfully deported Kilmer Garcia must be allowed to return and receive due process. Trump ignored it. He ignored the Constitution.
God, people are so willing to put themselves out there for a gang member from a Mexican cartel. I don't understand. Somehow I have a feeling that's not going to reflect well in the next election, unless, of course, they cheat. So Trump said good luck to the people of Canada today with their election. Elect a man who has the strength and wisdom to cut your taxes in half, increase your military power for free to the highest level in the world, have your car, steel, aluminum, lumber, energy, and all other businesses quadruple in size with zero tariffs or taxes. Canada becomes the cherished 51st state of the United States of America. No more artificially drawn line from many years ago. So, of course, the one candidate, Pierre, there had to say, stay out of our election, President Trump. The only people who will decide the future of Canada are Canadians at the ballot box. Canada will always be proud, sovereign, and independent, and we will never be the 51st state. And he might never be the leader of Canada, but I guess time will tell. Either way, it seems like there's some shenanigans going on in the election already. We're going to look at in 1 second. You would think, of course, Donald Trump would want Pierre to win because he is their more conservative candidate, and Mark Carney's the liberal. See how liberal they are? They're so liberal, their conservative is liberal. Anyway, let's take a look at the shenanigans going on here. It seems there are films of poll workers bringing out boxes of unsealed ballots, taking them home with them. That's a big no-no.
Box of votes. More boxes of votes. Just in their car, willy-nilly.
Kind of weird, I gotta say. Obviously, I don't know what their boxes of votes look like, and I'm assuming he does, but...
So even at the early voting places, they send the boxes home with folks?
I'm not sure about them going. I didn't work that.
No way. So they send everybody home with a box?
For the early ones?
For what? You got a box?
Yeah. It's empty.
There's no plain empty votes in it?
No, there's empty.
Why would they send you home with it?
Because you have to bring it Monday morning.
Back to the building that you took it from?
No, to your polling place, wherever you're voting.
So the polling place, let's say, in Dundas, does that change on Monday?
Bring it there, yeah, and then at the end of the night, you count the ballots, and then the supervisor takes it to the head office.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Find it strange that why would they not just leave them in the building?
Good question. It would be a lot easier.
So where does this go?
Wherever you vote, wherever the zone is. Like Thomas More has a poll. St. Andrew's Church has a poll. There's a couple others too around here.
Don't you find that a bit odd?
That's the way it is. That's the way it's always been done. I worked the last election too. It was the same.
So it was a bit confusing there. It felt like he was trying to say he was delivering blank ballots to the polling places, but then the other guy sort of made it sound like he was taking them home for the weekend. That's a big no-no. So I don't know what to make of that, Canada, but I'd be concerned. But we all have to be a bit concerned for the time being. Did you like those signs in front of the White House that President Trump had put up? He put up roughly 100 arrested immigrant signs. They're mugshots on the White House lawn. Is that not the coolest guy? And then the White House posted this: chess, not checkers. So he put these signs up for a point. MSNBC finally reports on the child rapists, the murderers, the fentanyl dealers, and violent illegal aliens Biden let loose to destroy our communities. Thankfully, the Trump administration is hunting them down. Isn't that hilarious? It's, you know, he knew the media would come and film all this, and he put in big letters on there what they were arrested for: rapist, murderer. That's funny. That's funny. It's a good way to get him to report on that. And here's a story you guys probably won't even believe. As if the Obama family didn't have enough weirdness, Malia has announced that she will transition to Malik, a non-binary person, whatever the fuck that means. She plans to marry longtime friend Joey Barone, who is now a woman named Jan. Both Barack and Big Mike must be so proud. That's, you know, I know you gotta be fucking with me, I swear. I don't know. Captain Kyle put that up, so I imagine it's true, but damn. That being said, we need to look at some murders that might be connected to the Obamas. Sort of like the Clintons have that murder count. Obamas might be racking up an account too. Let's take a look.
Petite amie de Barack Obama admet qu'il était le principal suspect dans l'affaire du tueur en série gay.
Midwestern city. The cases were never solved. At the time, the media reported that the police had no suspects, and the victims were all gay black men. They were mostly middle-class professionals, some of them with a wife and children at home. The victims had one other thing in common. They were all members of the same social circle, a social circle that included a young, fast-rising political star. In reality, the police did have a suspect. The problem for them was, the suspect was the fast-rising young political star. The young politician had very powerful people behind him who were clearing the path for him to run for the highest office in the land. The politician was never charged, let alone questioned by the police, and the media chose never to speak about it again. If the mainstream media aren't going to do their job and report on the news, then we're going to have to do it for them. Before we dive in, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and join the People's Voice Locals community.
That's pretty
to support
serious,
the channel
isn't
and gain
it?
access to exclusive.
If he's like actually was a murder suspect.
The globalist elite. So it should come as no surprise that the mainstream media have been protecting him and covering up his scandals throughout his entire career. As a result, Obama was allowed to be the fakest president in history, with a media that fawned over his every word, with only the occasional dropped hint regarding the truth about the president's double life.
New this morning, another magazine cover causing some controversy.
This one is about President Obama after he announced his public support for same-sex marriage last week. Here's the picture on the cover of Newsweek this week. Eyewitness News reporter Nicole Estefan joins us live in the newsroom now with more on the controversy.
Good morning. Newsweek's latest cover said to hit stands in about a week, and no doubt it will spawn some conversation here. It declares Barack Obama as, quote, the first gay president. Obama's face is pictured looking skyward, complete with a rainbow halo. The accompanying article analyzes the president's backing of gay marriage.
But in 2023, there are enough people in the world who have woken up to the truth about the globalist elites, and now they are demanding the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
You know, in 2008, it became really clear that Barack Obama had been having sex with men and smoking crack. And a guy came forward, Larry Sinclair, and said, I'll sign an affidavit. And he did. I'll take a lie detector. And he did. I smoked crack with Barack Obama and had sex with him. Well, that was obviously true. Nobody reported it, not because they were squeamish about sex or drugs, but because the Obama campaign said anyone who reports on this gets no access to the Obama campaign.
Back in 2008, Larry Sinclair said that he had no desire to come forward and talk about the sordid activities he got up to with Obama and other Chicago men in the early 2000s. But he felt he simply had to warn the world about this man who was running for president. Why? Because the rest of the gay men in Obama's close-knit circle group had begun dying in very suspicious circumstances.
On November 6, 1999, after picking me up at the hotel in Gurney, and this is significant, Mr. Mutani used his cell phone to make a call. That call was made to then Illinois State Senator Barack Obama to set up an introduction between myself and Senator Obama. Upon arriving at the bar and exiting the limo, Senator Obama was standing next to Mr. Mutani, and I was introduced to Senator Obama by name. Later that evening in a bar which I believe was called Alibis, and I state believe because I have failed so far to get Citigroup to provide the credit card receipts that has the actual name. I mentioned I could use a line or two to wake up. Senator Obama asked me if I was referring to Coke, and I stated I was. After stating I was, Obama stated he could purchase cocaine for me and then made a telephone call. This too is significant, from a cell phone to a presently unknown individual, during which Senator Obama arranged the cocaine purchase. Senator Obama and I then departed the bar in my limousine and proceeded to an unknown location where Senator Obama exited the limousine with $250, which was provided to him by me. Returned a short while later with an 8-ball of cocaine, which he gave to me. I did ingest a couple of lines of cocaine, and shortly thereafter, Senator Obama produced a glass cylinder pipe and packet of crack cocaine from his pocket. Obama then smoked the crack cocaine. I performed fellatio on Senator Obama in the limousine during the time Senator Obama was smoking crack cocaine, after which I had the driver take me to my hotel, the Comfort Suites, Gurnee, Illinois. The following day, November 7th, 1999, Senator Obama appeared at my hotel room, unannounced, uninvited, where we again ingested cocaine and I again performed fellatio on Senator Obama. In late September to early October 2007, I received a call from a male who identified himself as a Mr. Young, stating he was calling in regards to calls I had made to the Obama campaign. The first call was in fact an attempt by Mr. Young to obtain from me the identities of anyone I had contacted concerning my 1999 allegations against Senator Obama. The first call shocked me in that this Mr. Young asked me why I had not asked Senator Obama to disclose the sexual encounters I had with Mr. Obama in 1999. I was shocked, as I had never mentioned to the campaign or anyone working for the campaign any sexual encounters, as my call was prompted by drug allegations only. In mid to late October 2007, I received a second call from this Mr. Young, at which time I clearly became aware that this individual was personally involved with Senator Obama rather than just an employee of his campaign. The tone of the conversation had a sexual nature. Mr. Young did not once advise me how he obtained my phone number, which by this time had now changed to a Delaware number. In late October 2007, I received a text message from the gentleman identified as Mr. Young, in which he stated he was intimately involved with Senator Obama and that Obama was discussing with him and his pastor how to publicly acknowledge Senator Obama's drug use in 1999, and that Obama wanted to be sure I had not discussed the sexual encounters or drug incidents with any media at that time. In mid to late November 2007, in another text message from Mr. Young, he advised me that Senator Obama will publicly correct his statement as to the last time he used drugs, and I did not need to concern myself with publicly disclosing it myself. The last contact I had with Mr. Young was in early December 2007, when he made it clear to me that Senator Obama had no intentions of publicly acknowledging his 1999 use of crack cocaine, and that Mr. Young was in fact doing nothing more than milking information from me for Senator Obama's use. I later learned that A. Donald Young, the choir director of Reverend Wright's Trinity United Church of Christ, Obama's now former church, and who was openly homosexual, learned that he was murdered on December 23rd of 2007.
Obama was a member of Jeremiah Wright's Trinity Church for 20 years. Wright was briefly the subject of controversy in 2008 when ABC News revealed his anti-American sermons included instructions for black Americans to stop singing God Bless America and start singing God Damn America. Let's face it isn't hard to imagine Barack Obama singing God Damn America with one hand on his heart while making eyes with homosexual men. After all, this is the man who told an ex-girlfriend that he dreamed of making love to men daily. But ABC should have investigated further, because independent journalists spoke to several well-placed sources in Chicago's gay community, as well as political sources in the city, who reported that Wright was essentially running a matchmaking service for gay married black professional members of the church, including businessmen, lawyers, and politicians. By all accounts, the young Barack Obama had a very active social life. The kind of social oath that he and his elite handlers didn't want America knowing about when he was running for president in 2008. That's when gay men with intimate connections to Barack Obama.
Wild, huh? But if he was actually connected to murders, I mean, that's so Clinton-ish, right? And we remember the Sinclair interviews. Moving on with some more news. State Farm is retaliating against James O'Keefe for exposing them, saying they're no longer hiring white people. Detectives have come to the home of one of his undercover journalists and filed a criminal complaint. Let's take a look at what he has to say about this.
We just found out that detectives have come to the home of one of our undercover journalists. Apparently, the vice president of State Farm has filed a criminal complaint. This just happened. We just found out that they went to the door of one of the homes of our undercover journalists. This is apparently over the State Farm insurance story that we did. The vice president of State Farm was fired from State Farm for what he said on hidden camera. This is apparently over the Illinois eavesdropping law, the anti-recording law, but we recorded this in a place where there's no expectation of privacy. This is a First Amendment issue. They're trying to intimidate my team. We need a defense attorney in Cook County, Illinois. We're calling on all attorneys. Again, we need good lawyers to come to our defense. Please email us at legal@o'keefemediagroup.com. That's legal@o'keefemediagroup.com, legal@o'keefemediagroup.com. We need lawyers who care. They're trying to intimidate us. They're trying to scare our undercover journalists. We will have the backs of our reporters. We did not break the law. There's nothing wrong with what we did. This is a powerful insurance company. The vice president of State Farm filed a complaint, but we're going to have your backs, undercover journalists. I'm going to have your back no matter what. This is a developing story. More soon.
There you go. If you know any good attorneys in the Cook County area, O'Keefe Media Group's in need of some. Yeah, State Farm's a pain in the ass to deal with. When my brother was T-boned by a drunk driver without a license who was speeding and driving in the wrong lane, they did everything they could to try and put the fault on my brother. You didn't stop enough at the stop sign, or it's like, your guy was drunk. There's no debate here. But yeah, not a big fan of State Farm personally, so I get where he's coming from. They're all a bunch of scammers anyway. The California Democrats' homelessness fix exposed as a massive scam benefiting developers. A stunning revelation shows California Democrats have funneled $24 billion in the so-called homelessness programs over the past 5 years, but instead of solving the crisis, the money enriched real estate developers. Rather than direct aid, taxpayer funds built luxury housing projects costing up to $200 million for just a handful of low-income units with restrictions that expire in as little as 5 years, turning properties into market-rate cash cows. Developers and consultants, so you'll see what I'm talking about here. Basically, say you build an apartment building and you sign a deal that you'll do this homelessness deal, and then after so many years you can rent it out and do whatever you want with it, and it seems to be what they're doing.
What's going on with the billions of dollars that should be helping the homeless people?
Exact number, I believe, is $24 billion over the last 5 years in California. And if you do the math on that and divide by the number of homeless people, we could have given each homeless person annually, I believe, over $100,000 if that money were just to go cash directly to the homeless. But that's not what happened. The money is going to housing projects that are these like luxury condominiums that are $140 million, $200 million to build, that have like 8 units that are for low income housing. And then on top of that, there are the...
I'm sorry, but if they could have given them upwards of $100,000 each, why didn't they get them each an acre of property and a tiny home on there or something? I mean, you could do better than that for that kind of money, but They didn't.
These covenants that are put into place that say how you only need to keep this low income for, let's say, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And after that, it becomes market rate. So now these real estate developers have basically had their project financed by taxpayers, or a lot of it financed by taxpayers, without giving anything back to the community. There's also a lot of money to be made in the application process when you pay $30, $40 an application. You can actually just make money by listing that unit and collecting the application fees that come in. That oftentimes is greater than the rent that is going to be collected by housing somebody. So now you've created another loophole in there for people to take advantage of. There's an industrial complex that's now being put in place where if they solve this problem, now all of a sudden they're out of their job. And you see some of these figures of these people that are making 6 figures, almost 7 figures consulting for homeless shelters. It's kind of insane. And that's why the problem is not really getting solved. And there's no accountability.
If you were consulting on the homelessness issue and making that much money a year, you wouldn't want to solve the problem, would you? Because then you'd be out of a job. Bunch of horse shit. And the streets have not changed a bit in LA. And in fact, most of California, it seems they've gotten worse. And billions of dollars down the drain. Well, not down the drain. It went into somebody's pockets, but what a load. And then there's Chuck E. Schumer. It says his mission is to continue to fight against Trump. People were trying to push him into retirement, but no.
Staying with that, Senator, as the party contemplates its future, you yourself has faced recent calls to retire or at least step down as Senate Democrats leader. You said you're staying put. Tell our audience why. Would you explain that, please?
I'm staying put because I have been able to unite my caucus in a very strong fight against Trump. And that's what we have to do. And I'm doing it every day in every way.
Yeah, was he from New York? Or was he California? I don't even know. I don't think he's united anybody. And in Wisconsin, we talked a bit about this yesterday. Judge Monica Isham threatens to halt court hearings after arrest of Judge Hannah Dugan. Sawyer County Judge Monica is threatening to stop holding court hearings after Milwaukee Judge Dugan was arrested for impeding an immigration arrest. In an email obtained by Wisconsin Now, Isham said she would not allow ICE to remove illegal aliens from her courtroom without due process, even comparing immigration enforcement to concentration camps. She warned that without clear guidance by the May 9th Judicial District 10 meeting, she will refuse to hold court in her branch. See you later. There's more judges out there, right? Fire her, whatever. Get her out of there, put somebody else in. That's how that works. And Russia says they're ready to talk to Ukraine without any preconditions. How nice of them. They have also announced that there will be a ceasefire from May 8th to 10th. So at least some world leaders are really, trying for peace. And again, like I said at the beginning of this show, what did I say? I'm telling you the news like a normal person sees the news. But again, it's all the world's a stage. And on that stage, the Taliban condemns the terror attack in India from Pakistan. It's pretty bad when Taliban's condemning your terrorist attack. You must be real bad terrorists then. Sort of makes the Pakistanis definitely look like terrorists, huh? And then India signed a $7.4 billion deal with France to buy 26 fighter jets. So, opposite of what Putin's doing. Some world leaders seem to be a little hot under the collar. Or again, it's all just stage and screen. But Pakistan's defense minister warns that an Indian military incursion is imminent. We'll take a short and very quick look. I don't understand the purpose. if you start a war like that, it's not going to be a short war. These are two nuclear powers. It's in huge countries with giant borders right next door to each other. Your neighbors, guys, get along. See how quick I can solve that? Check this out. This is what I hope to be how the future of our education for children works.
Right now I'm in the Little Dippers food truck. Most kids are sitting in a classroom really bored right now, but we're actively cooking in our food truck and we're serving to real customers, and it's all during the school day.
My job in this food truck right now is to take orders.
So we just got our first customer. We have one problem, we forgot the bacon.
We are running a food truck, learning life skills including financial literacy, critical thinking, and money management.
Doing this food truck, I've learned that like staying calm is like the best thing you could do, because if you get stressed, then like everybody gets stressed.
I've also learned like customer service, food safety laws, like don't touch food with bare hands, and all that fun stuff.
I'm the teacher that's helping with this food truck, but my job is to set it up for them and then step out of the way.
French toast, waffles, and pancakes.
Is that not so cool? In the food truck, it's a perfect start. I mean, obviously, you know, I'm sure people are going to say, I don't want my child working in the food business. It's about life skills. Life skills. They should all have classes called life skills. That's really cool right there. And I hope to see things change, because right now kids don't know what they're doing or where they're going. Not even just kids, you know, like my daughter's 21 now. Or will be soon. They don't know what to look to in the future. It's probably seems so bleak to them, I imagine. I just, you know, they have no idea how good things are going to get in the future. And again, they need life skills so they don't end up like Katy Perry here. This has to be the worst performance I've ever seen in my life. That's inappropriate. Good Lord. Yeah, I know. Horrible, isn't it? Horrible. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. He's disturbed by this. It was disturbing, wasn't it? That was terrible, wasn't it? Somebody said that was a $1,500 concert per ticket. You gotta be kidding me. There's no way. I don't think people, I mean, I wouldn't pay $150. I wouldn't pay $15 to see that. Hopefully, though, the kids didn't use these sort of new, fake eggs. This is wild here. I don't even know what that was, but I don't get what this fake food stuff is all about. Bit of a, different topic. The Democrat opera ballot stuffer in Bridgeport, Connecticut was a government employee on the payroll, collecting a paycheck from her government job for over a year, even though she's been suspended and charged with election fraud and caught on tape. Who are we talking about? Well, I'll show you.
Fox News alert, Wanda the stuffer just got fired. Wanda's the Democrat operative and ballot stuffer from Bridgeport, Connecticut. She's been collecting a paycheck from her government job for over a year, even though she's been suspended and charged with election fraud and caught on tape. Finally, we're not paying her anymore. The media always says there's no election fraud.
Finally.
We got it on tape. And now a Democrat operative has been investigated and fired for stuffing.
Finally, she still got paid for a year afterwards. Talk about a slow investigation for somebody caught on tape. Well, at least you can go around and say, see, there is proof of election fraud. We got to keep getting rid of these Obama judges. So you go ahead, Judge Isham in Wisconsin. You block all you want, and then we can put you in jail. Let's take a look. I want to show you this. It's only like 2 minutes long. It's Ricardo Bozzi, and I want to show you how he handles the media. He's like, he can handle the media like Trump can. It's amazing.
Can I ask you a question?
Sorry, I was just going to hang on.
Haven't you signed us up to the UN?
Who?
Your mother? What?
Okay, my mother.
Yeah, your mother.
Apparently, my mother's a globalist. What she did, madam, what she did, she was part of a charity committee that ran charity events to raise money for the disadvantaged. Gough Whitlam was the Prime Minister at the time, and they managed to get him as the guest of honour. That's okay. She also committed suicide. Why don't you rub that in my face? She jumped off a cliff at Coogee. No, I'm just telling you. The reason they're bringing my mother up and my father, and here's my father. My father was offered safe seats by the Liberal and Labor parties to get stuff to both of them. Put that in your fucking pipe and smoke it. So, come after me, I'm a big boy, take it. But anyone who wants to take on my mum and dad, watch this fucking space. I will be brutal. That woman gave birth to 8 children. She was a professional journalist. She was the toughest, smartest, most elegant woman I've ever met in my life. You know, I had difficulty finding girlfriends because the standard she set was way up here. Now, anybody wants to badmouth my mother, thank you. You've had your shot, madam. Thank you. Anyone wants to badmouth them, come here and do it to my face. But those fucking cowards of the MSN and the Liberal Labor bullshit machine won't do it. But I tell you, Kelly's going to have their last laugh, me. She was also knighted by the Italian government for the work she did helping Australians, the new Australians, the Italians, integrate into their new country. She also told me to serve this nation that gave me everything. That's my mother.
Yes.
Okay? So if anybody wants to go on that, oh please, I'll give you my address. You can come around to my place.
Yeah.
Those cowards like Lee Sale.
I love you, Ricardo. Amen. And I'm so sorry. I can't believe his mother committed suicide jumping off a cliff. That's horrible. But, raised tough. Women like that make you the man you are today. This guy, this guy here, it's got to be the most irritating 15 seconds I've seen all month.
And you've done it, Republicans. In one fell swoop, you fucking pushed my mental health over the fucking line. Now, I fucking die.
Your mental health, buddy, you Democrat Tonka brain, you have put up with like 90 days of Trump. We put up with 4 years of Joe Biden, and we've put up with this plan for 10 years. Your mental health, my friend, go make yourself a martini, you weenie. Jesus. Amen. And now, I want to look at a couple things here. This is something from Mike Flynn. Breaks my heart when I learn there were active duty military that were part of this human and child drug trafficking underground network. America's #1 in the world for child sex and slave trafficking. #1 in the world. An absolutely brutal and horrific crime. And he's right. There have been active duty people involved, people that were paid to look the other way, convinced the other to look the other way, bribed, you name it. But then I want to take a look at this post here. The harvest crop has been prepared and soon will be delivered to the public for consumption. A higher loyalty. Hunters become the hunted. What do you think that means? Well, Juan O'Sullivan, from what I gather, if I'm right here, referred to the crops as like your CIA agents in training, or any agents in training, I think, federal agents. And he used to talk about where they went to school and stuff. And let's say they've been getting trained under the Donald Trump type administration all this time, and now they're ready for public consumption, ready to hunt the hunters. You understand? And they have a higher loyalty. They're not going to be bribed. They're not going to turn the other way. They're not going to overlook child trafficking. That's what's going on now. And moving forward a little bit, the NHS to test all trans children for autism. I gotta admit, I don't quite understand that, but I believe that regards the UK, and also in the UK.
Experiments to dim the sun could be approved in weeks, which is all part of the government's attempts to slow down global warming.
They say the government has set aside £50 million of your taxpayers' money for geoengineering experiments. They want to reflect sunlight away from the Earth's
I know we talked about
surface,
this
but
a
should
little.
we be playing God?
There's a variety of different ways in which you could try to affect the planet's temperature. One is to try and make clouds brighter and more reflective, so they reflect more light into space, or try to spray water to create clouds. You could do things like, I mean, the really big stuff would be to try and put something out in space that would block some of...
Is it just me, or does anybody else feel like we should almost like be declaring war on the UK for trying to tamper with the sun? We're just going to block out the sun. We don't, what gives them the right to do something like that? It's so ridiculous. I mean, I don't even know. And then this quick clip I want to show you. We're almost done with the news.
Our state budget is more than Florida and Texas combined.
Wow.
And when people want services, you have to live in New York for 30 days, and it's as though you lived here your whole life. So you can apply for all these benefits and all these services.
She's referring to illegals in New York, or a huge sanctuary area.
And New York is over generous with all people, whether they are, lived here their whole lives, whether they're citizens, whether they're, it's just it's a circus ring, a giant circus.
Okay. Moving forward, I want to show you this 2-minute video that Alex Jones put out.
All right, I've been on air 31 years coming up in April, and we've never had something of this magnitude and this seriousness. I, again, as I did in the earlier report to you, got a contact by a very respected top journalist of the highest credibility, saying that one of their top sources, very high in U.S. intel, said that from 3 sources inside the intelligence signals gathering system, NSA, CIA, that there is a international contract out on me of the highest level they've ever seen targeting a civilian. They said these same contracts are out on the Trump family, and that's the only group that had this level through the same networks. Obviously, it's the Ukrainians. Now, let's move away from what's happening to me and our reporter getting murdered Sunday night, and vicious SWAT raids on Chase Geiser last night, guns drawn, loudspeakers, lights, all of it. He's posted the video. People trying to get him murdered, calling up, impersonating him, saying he had his wife and daughters tied up and he's going to kill him. And they get there, he's asleep, he gets up, the wife and children don't wake up, he goes out, that happens. So that's what's going on just a few hours ago. I was been on the phone with him since 3 a.m. I get this information on top of other information about 7 o'clock last night about the contract. And you need to understand, this is canary in the coal mine. They are so desperate. Now, of course, Jamie White that was murdered was on the Ukrainian government targeting list. So is Elon Musk. So is Chase Geiser. And that's from last year. They also killed Gonzalo Lira, a U.S. citizen and journalist, on record. They're very proud of that, and they bragged about it. So, tortured him to death. So, They're losing. They have no intention, though, of peace. This is NATO. And it was NATO, I learned 8 years ago, that ran all the disinformation campaigns against me and the fake lawsuits, directing that with Bloomberg and the Democratic Party. They knew they'd turn me into a martyr if they just killed me. Now they don't care. They just want to win. I already had the intel from a lot of sources, and I confirmed these with these sources last night. Then, of course, Musk is also on this list, and he's on that targeting list.
So do you guys buy what he's saying? I thought this was from today, but clearly that was right after his reporter was murdered about, what, a month or so ago, 2 months ago now. On a list. You think he's on a list? A Ukrainian list? A hit list? As high as Trump? Or is he just full of himself? That is not what I thought that video was about, to be honest with you. It was labeled as GMOs, and it was a mix-up. I wanted to show you this message real quick from Archbishop Vigano, now that the Pope has passed away. It says a message to the American people, and it's short but sweet, I guess. Dear American people, dear friends, the global coup has been carried out all over the world, planned for some time by an elite group of conspirators enslaved to the interests of international high finance. Yeah. Somehow I think there's more to that letter, but I guess it's just interesting to see somebody that high up admitting it. I don't know. I think a lot's going to happen with the Catholic Church, frankly. And what do I got? One more story. Senator Josh Hawley has reintroduced the Pelosi Act, trying to ban members of Congress from trading stocks. It's not the first time they've tried to pass that, but you've got my support, Mr. Hawley. So now what I want to do, now that we've gone through today's news, I want to look at a couple of messages. The first one comes from SG Anon. It's not very long, but he's having some changes with his channel, and I respectfully wanted to go ahead and play it for you. It's only a few minutes, what he has to say. And then I'm going to switch over to a video that I think is important for the times, and it comes from Derek Johnson, and there's not a lot out there today anyway, but looking at what's out there, I think it's more important message to see than anything. So that's what we're going to do, guys. We're going to start with SG Anon's. Well, that ended abruptly again. I don't believe there's a part 3 yet. So, yeah. Yes, he was right about what he's saying, and you'd be crazy to argue it anyway, because even if for some reason he was wrong about that little piece of it, there's just so much else out there. But he's not. And, you know, all these guys are different in their own way, but I appreciate these videos and what they do. And doing things live like I do and they do, it's just it's a lot different. You can't edit out the cuss words or the quiet parts or the mistakes, or so. You know, I could find ways to get irritated about certain parts of what they say or whatever, but I don't think it would help the cause at this point very much. So, like always, I had something I was going to say and I forgot again. I think it's just something at this point we just sort of have to accept, because we're this far into it. There's not much we can do to change what's going to happen, but It's about being ready to hold the next in line accountable. And that's what journalism really is about to me. It's about holding people and places and things accountable, and you have to do that in all fairness, even with Trump's administration, and you have to be ready to do it with the next administration. And that needs to happen, because if there's not people like that putting the pressure on, then obviously there's no pressure to make certain decisions. You think some were told what to say? Are there any in particular you think are fake? Because a lot of people were actually talking about this today, and let me see if I still got the post. I'm sure it's like gonna disappear now that I'm looking for it, but people were sort of slamming at other podcasters. Why the hell can't I find it? Oh, because it's attached to that. Be wary of a growing number of influencers whom use fighting for the children as a cover while they deploy their real agenda of tearing down Q and sowing division within the movement. I think anything that does that, is obviously your first sign of trouble, but it's brilliant. You can't call them out without them coming back at you saying what you don't care about the children. Yeah, there's no one person I could really call out of the people we watch. I'm sure there are some. Others, I think, are just keeping it real after what we've been through and seen. A lot of people sort of swore off politics at a point, and now here we are again. But we'll survive. We're headed the right direction. It just has to happen a certain way, and it's frustrating, and it's irritating, and it's complicated, and it's uncomfortable, but it all serves a purpose. And if that's too difficult to, or just, wrap your head around at this point, then do what Jesus would do and go talk to God about it and ask Him and give yourself time to hear the answer. Derek, I didn't get to listen to a whole lot of this episode. They're all quirky in their own ways. I could find plenty of ways that they all irritate me or have said something wrong, but you got to look to the positive. I think about all the stuff I've learned from them that I wouldn't know if they didn't make their videos and take the time to do this for the Patriot community. And, with that, I try and support all of them and show you guys the best of them, hopefully, that are, saying the right things, keeping you updated, all that good stuff. All that being said, guys, I think that is all for tonight that I have. God bless you all. It's been a long day. I've been multitasking again all day, doing like 20 things at once. You should see me tomorrow. I'm gonna mow the yard and edit videos at the same time. There's a sight. Mow the yard while sleeping. I could go mow the yard right now. It's dark out. Might irritate my neighbors, which might be a plus. You guys are great, though, you know. I'm sure it's hard for them to kind of see exactly what it's like to go through things on this side of things, but I don't think it was ever meant to be comfortable. There's different ways this could have been done, and I'm not the one to say whether it's the right way or not. They've done amazing things, I can tell you that, and I think we're going to see some amazing things that you can't believe. It doesn't mean it won't come with hardships and tough times, but again, a lot of it might just be for show at some point. So I don't know. The best we can do is report it, discuss it, and put it on a shelf for the night, right? Nothing like getting grounded. You gotta go outside and ground yourself sometimes. I like to go outside and read a little bit. That's sort of my go-to to clear my head. You know, I can sort of drift off in a book. Most of the time I end up playing with the dogs, though, because, you know, he wants to play Frisbee. But I hope you guys, you know, get a positive feel out of being here and hanging out here, and when you leave here, I hope it's some positive vibes for you guys. And I try and bring you as much honest news as I can find in a day. Other than that, we're going to succeed. We've already won. We've already succeeded. It's just kind of like going through the motions. Yeah, I you know, that's another thing, though. I think things are, you know, I don't know the right words to use here. I don't want to say getting real, but things are going to sort of get real to where I think people aren't going to be able to look away. They're not going to be able to turn their heads at what's being said. Even the people on the left, and you know, they'll try and come up with ways to deny it or say it's fake. Some people will not come around, and that's just how it is. But that'll all change eventually. Until, you know, I think about the world that my granddaughter will be living in like 15 years, 10 years. It's going to be wild. Hopefully, this time period now will be a distant memory, but we'll be building on this. We'll be building on this for a while. It's a new adventure. Not something you could just snap your fingers and try and explain on the news in a day. Hey, so you know those globalists, this is everything they've been doing. They've been doing this, and Social Security. And if you try to do that, you'd be talking for days, trying to list all their crimes and everything they're guilty for. And so why not, you know, maybe doing it this way was the best way to break it down. I don't want to keep saying like a movie, but just like it sort of should be in real life. The arrests, the busts. I think we'll see more arrested. But, we'll see what happens with it all, guys. I hope you enjoyed the show. I do believe we're in a Kennedy world. More than people understand. It's a good thing. It's exciting. It's exciting times. I think it doesn't mean that there's not horrible things in the background that we always have to consider, but we got to push forward and do whatever God put us here to do, guys. That's what we're going to do. God bless you. I love you guys so very, very much. And I will see you tomorrow. Same time as always. Q. What's about Q? Q the man. See you tomorrow, guys. Good night.